I'm very pleased to join you this morning for this timely and important dialogue on the Zero Draft Political Declaration for the 2023 SDG Summit. The dialogue is, of course, organized jointly by UN DESA in collaboration with the UN SDG Action Campaign, and my thanks to all colleagues who were very instrumental in bringing us together today. We are also delighted to have in attendance the two co-facilitators of the intergovernmental consultation process, His Excellency Mr. Fergal Mython, Permanent Representative of Ireland to the United Nations, and Her Excellency Ms. Aliya Ahmed bin Saif Al Thani, Permanent Representative of the State of Qatar to the UN. Before we start, please allow me to make a few housekeeping announcements. Please note that this webinar will be recorded, and so that's a caution for everyone as you speak. The recording and relevant information will be made available on the event's website and shared with all registered participants. We would be grateful if all speakers could keep their cameras on when speaking. We kindly ask all participants to mute your microphones when you are speaking so as not to disrupt others who may be speaking. When you are not speaking, because we want to hear from those who have the floor. Please also do use the Q&A box to ask questions, and please make sure to indicate your name, organization, country when typing your question. If you have a substantive comment on the Zero Draft Political Declaration, please submit these through the Google form for which the link is provided in the chat box. If you're on Twitter, please tag us using at susdev and at SDG Action. Another point of note is that this meeting is also being live streamed on our Facebook account. My colleagues will be adding the link to the Facebook Live in the chat box. If you get disconnected, you can also reconnect through there. We will have a visual scribe capturing the content of the session in a creative way, and we will soon hear more details about this from UN SDG Action Campaign. Ladies and gentlemen, the SDG Summit will be held on the 18th and 19th of September at UN headquarters in New York. It will mark the midpoint review of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The summit will discuss how to reverse the ground lost on the SDGs due to the COVID-19 pandemic and other current crises. The summit will also kick off a new momentum to reach the SDGs by 2030. The world is severely off track at the halfway mark of the Sustainable Development Goals. The recent special edition report of the Secretary General on progress towards the SDGs demonstrated that just 12% of the accessible SDGs are on course. The SDG Summit and the political declaration to be adopted by heads of state and government is therefore a crucial opportunity to put the SDGs back on course and secure the breakthroughs and commitment needed to drive SDG acceleration between now and 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2030 Agenda is grounded in an understanding that addressing the world's most pressing challenges requires engagement, collaboration, and partnerships with all stakeholders in society. This entails bringing together citizens, local, regional, and national governments, parliamentarians, academics, civil society, the private sector, and major groups and other stakeholders. Stakeholders have actively contributed to the negotiating process that established the SDGs and have continued bringing their ideas, efforts, advocacy, and analytical support to the implementation and follow-up of the 2030 Agenda. Today's webinar received more than 1,500 registrations from around 140 countries. This attests to the high level of interest and priority that stakeholders from different sectors attribute to the 2030 Agenda and SDG implementation. This virtual dialogue is a great opportunity for civil society, major groups, and other stakeholders to share concrete inputs and suggestions for the Zero Draft Political Declaration of the SDG Summit, and I look forward to your contributions. I want to call your attention to the written inputs provided by major groups and other stakeholders to the Zero Draft Political Declaration for the Summit, which is now available at the Summit's webpage. Let me now invite Ms. Marina Ponti, Director of the UN SDG Action Campaign, to make her welcome remarks. I take this opportunity to thank her and her team for collaborating with UN DESA on today's webinar. You have the floor, Marina.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and greetings from the UN SDG Action Campaign in Bonn. It's a great pleasure to be here today with our colleagues from UN DESA, with the ambassador, co-facilitators of the SDG Summit, and esteemed speakers and participants from civil society and other important constituencies. At the midpoint towards the 2030 deadline, the challenges around us may seem daunting, but there is nothing human creativity cannot achieve when we unite with a clear vision and a sense of urgency. When you feel discouraged, think of how the world came together and in 1 year produced a vaccine against COVID, something that was estimated to take 10 years or even more. The focus of today is to share with the two co-facilitators of the SDG Summit inputs and feedback to the zero draft of the political declaration that was made available a few weeks back. But I would also like to take the opportunity to give you a sneak preview of a new SDG campaign to be launched in early July, just before the high-level political forum, to mobilize people and institutions towards September with a simple core message: unite to act. It's a message of hope, of possibility, and of the urgency of action now. And this message also aligns with other UN and non-UN initiatives that will be mobilizing for the SDG Summit. Why unite? For too long, we've been used to thinking in divisions. We draw lines, segregating countries, people, issues. The lines are everywhere, in the parched soil craked with droughts, in the sky trailing a plane, in the barriers and walls that keep us apart. The power of the SDGs is that they call on us to wave the lines together, transforming them into a ribbon that connects us all and unites our effort to reach our shared goals. The ribbon represents our togetherness and community. It calls on us to unite to act. Unity is at the heart of the SDGs because achieving any single goal requires achieving them all. And this is only possible when people themselves unite to change. United doesn't mean everyone doing the same thing or thinking the same way. It means people coming together in all our diversity to give humanity and our planet a beautiful, sustainable future. Ahead of the SDG Summit that marks the midpoint of the implementation of the 2030 Agenda, by reimagining our world, we can take it back, knowingly it rightly belongs to all people, not just a few. It will be a line turned into a ribbon that unites us across geographies, generation, and sector. Let's unite for peace, for justice, for equality, for social protection, food security, inclusion, climate, and more, because we're stronger together, united in action. At the SDG Action Campaign, we believe that what we can imagine, we can achieve because of human creativity. And creativity is part of our DNA. And this is why, as it was just mentioned, we've invited Marshall Dunn, who will accompany us today as a visual scribe, listening and synthesizing the content into a single visual, composed of words and images. We will spotlight her work unfolding at various points in the program and share the finished image afterwards. At the end of today, I will also be sharing a brief description of her image to ensure full accessibility. Marcia spent over 20 years of fostering reflective conversation, integrated learning, and collective change. She pairs visuals and visual frameworks with deep listening and a systemic thinking approach to facilitate insight and transformation in organization and academic context. Thank you and look forward to this conversation.
Thank you very much, Marina, for reminding us of the importance of unity and that how central the power to unite and act is to the success of the SDG agenda. Dear colleagues, as you know, the President of the UN General Assembly has appointed the permanent representatives of Ireland and Qatar as co-facilitators for the intergovernmental consultations on the political declaration for the 2023 SDG Summit. On the 8th of May, the zero draft of the political declaration was circulated by the co-facilitators to all member states and stakeholders. Consultations on this document were held on the 16th of May and the 2nd of June. I take this opportunity to thank the co-facilitators for their support in creating this space for stakeholders to contribute to this process. I also thank them for their presence, and I know their time is limited. I believe they may have to leave before our dialogue is concluded. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming His Excellency Ambassador Fergal Maitland, Permanent Representative of Ireland to the United Nations, for his remarks. You have the floor, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much, Neil. Thank you very much, Marina. Thank you, Naira. It's really great to be on this extraordinary platform. I was just looking at the all the messages from across the world, and I saw France, US, Uganda, Gambia, Togo, Haiti, Algeria, Britain, extraordinary, Mexico, Pakistan, just an extraordinary gathering, over 1,500 organizations, activists, people just really interested in the future of our planet. I think that's really, really important. So it's just great to be here. I always prefer doing these sessions in person, but I think we'd need the UN General Assembly Hall to fit everybody in here. So look, it's great to be connected in this way. I'm speaking to you from a very smoggy New York City. The city is shrouded in smog, which is coming from forest fires in Canada. And I think that's a metaphor for how interconnected we are. The idea that nationally we can manage these great global challenges, climate change, sustainable development, is really erroneous. We are in this together. We are united in action, and we're united in facing challenges. Obviously, there are different, each country and many regions have different capacities and different resources to tackle those problems. But the idea that we are in this together is very strong, and we feel it here today in New York as elsewhere. I want to thank DESA for your work in organising this really important stakeholder dialogue. It's really wonderful to have an opportunity to speak to so many stakeholders who are deeply invested in the Sustainable Development Goals, and to speak to you collectively today. So I'm going to keep my remarks pretty short. I'm going to hand over to Ambassador Alia, and then I have some time today to respond to questions, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest and a lot of hunger in knowing if we can get the SDGs back on track. Neil, as you said, they are off track from 2015. We can point to certain reasons why that might be so. We look at the COVID pandemic. We look at conflicts, across the globe. We look at financing issues, debt crisis, cost of living crisis. So there are many, many reasons why we can point to that. And yet, even before COVID, we know that the SDGs were going off track. So we have a huge job of work to do to, one, recapture the spirit and the energy and the vision and the ambition of 2015, and then to drive on through the current difficulties and the challenges that are all there, and really, really get the SDGs back on track for everyone, everywhere, all at once. To quote the movie, not easy, not an easy challenge. It wasn't an easy task in 2015 when the headwinds were better, but at the same time, it's really important that we do so. And I'm speaking to I imagine, a committed audience here in wanting to see those goals back on track. For Ireland, we were heavily involved in 2015, 2014, 2015. My predecessor, Ambassador David Donoghue, and my colleague John Gilroy, who was working in our team then and is working with our team now. So for us, it's hugely important. It's hugely important globally. It's a hugely important part of our development policy, but it's hugely important domestically. And I was reading a report recently by a consortium of Irish NGOs who, in a sense, were calling out Ireland and the Irish authorities and the Irish government for talking the talk internationally and talking our game, but actually not delivering domestically as we should. So we all have to step up here. And I think, Ireland, no more than anyone else, our own experiences, we have work to do. And I think for me, the secret ingredient of 2015 was and is that it's not just about other countries doing work. It's we all have a part to play. We all have actions to implement domestically. We all have that task. And so it is really one for all and all for one. We're all in this together, and we achieve together, we implement together, or we fall off track together. How do we know they're off track? Well, we can feel it, we can see it around us, but we also have empirical evidence, and we have two very, very important reports. We had the UN Secretary General's Progress Report, which was published a few weeks back, and we also have this year's Global Sustainable Development Report, which is a report compiled by scientists, social scientists, using data, empirical evidence. So it's grounded in data. And both these reports paint a really stark picture of where we stand today at the midpoint of the 2030 agenda. As I said, that data confirms what we already know. The goals are in jeopardy, urgent action is required. And to do this, to address this gap between rhetoric and action, between vision and implementation, we need to understand the challenges we face in achieving the SDGs, absolutely, but we also need to chart a course towards accelerating their implementation. And that's our task this year in the UN, with all the member states of the United Nations and myself and Ambassador Alia leading that work to craft a political declaration, which our heads of state and government will sign up to when they gather here in September. And for us, we want a declaration that captures some of the hard-headed realism and acknowledges the challenges we face, injects urgency, as Marina said earlier, and then delivers also a message of hope. So realism, urgency, and hope. That's our mantra. Why do we want that? Because we want our leaders, our elected leaders from across the globe, to leave the UN, to leave High Level Week, to leave the SDG Summit in September with a renewed commitment to the goals, with a renewed fire in their belly, as it were, to get implementation back on track, both domestically and internationally. And we think that's really, really important. So we're going to work hard. We are working hard on that, and Ali can speak about that process in some detail. But what we're striving to do is balance realism, urgency, and hope. We want a clear statement of direction. We want it to be both a high-level political declaration, but also one that speaks to people across the globe, that it's not shrouded in UN speak, that actually is accessible, as were the goals set out in 2015, that speaks clearly to how we can get the goals back on track for 2013. I'm going to leave it there, because I really want time to allow both Ambassador Alia to speak, but also then to hear from yourselves across the globe, and hopefully to answer as many questions as we can about where we're going and what we're trying to achieve in the days and weeks ahead, what we're trying to achieve in September, and how we can use it to drive on into the next phase. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Maithan. And also thank you for reminding us of the evidence that things are off track, not just what's contained, the evidence that are contained in the reports, but the evidence that we are experiencing here in New York City this morning. Thank you also for making that connection with the national importance and priority of the SDGs and the process that you and Ambassador Alia are leading. Let me now invite Her Excellency, Ambassador Alia Ahmed bin Al-Saif Al-Thani, Permanent Representative of Qatar to the United Nations, to deliver her remarks. Your Excellency, please take the floor.
Thank you so much, dear Neil, for both UN DESA and UN SDG Action Campaign for providing us with this opportunity to engage with the stakeholders, the key representatives, where we see, of course, their contribution as crucial as the participation of member states. And I'm really happy that we had the occasion to do that through these dialogues, and as well through their active participation in the informal consultations, where there has been a tradition in engaging the major group, stakeholder groups to hear their feedback, which has always been enlightening and informative. I mean, I want to echo what Ambassador Virgil have said, how crucial this moment for us. The September SDG Summit is the moment where we need to reaffirm and strengthen our commitments to put the SDGs on track. And of course, as Ambassador Virgil have said, it's quite evident that we are off track. We need to address the challenges. We need to address the wealth of problems that we are faced with, including those that have arisen in response to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. So there are many areas that we need to address. Of course, we have a very good basis. The 2019 political declaration has provided us with a good baseline. But again, there are many emerging challenges that we need to be, quite honest with ourselves, that we cannot just repeat ourselves. We really need to see how much we can as well address the impact of the new and emerging challenges we are all faced with. I also don't want to be too prolonged in my preliminary remarks. I want to hear from our colleagues around the room, but at least let me, after the excellent overview provided by Ambassador Virgil on where we are and what we are doing, let me talk a bit about the process. And of course, we are at a very critical moment. We've, as you are all aware, we've presented our zero draft early May, and we were able to convene an informal consultation to look at the zero draft, and we had the chance also to deliberate on certain inputs we have received from member states. We're progressing very well. Of course, the process is not easy, but through engagement, through deliberations, we were able to get there. We have a very tight timeline. We have to deliver at a certain point of time to make sure we are on track and ready to gavel on an important action-oriented document during the summit in September. So basically, again, as I said, our framework was the 2019 declaration, but we have to address the many aspects that we are faced with. The document, of course, comprises of 3 important sections. These sections addresses, first of all, where we have succeeded and where we have failed, where we have setbacks, and what we aspire to do to put ourselves back on track in terms of achieving the SDGs. There are several areas that we need to address. We have to make sure there are interlinkages and cross-cutting issues that we need to keep in mind. Issues relating to financing is a big component of how we can be able to put the SDGs on track. We cannot address that without addressing the issues of mobilizing the resources, the financial resources. So these are some of the aspects that we really need to get through in terms of getting agreement in the room and making sure we are ready to gavel on an important document in September. I will stop here, and again, I'm very thankful for this engagement, this opportunity. Your input is so important to us. It has enlightened us in many occasions as we proceed in revising and updating the zero draft. So anything you think you would like to stress specifically today in the meeting, we will be happy, and we will try our best to be here as much as we can. As we also, as Neil have said, we have some pressing commitments later on today, but I myself, I'll try my best to be as much to hear some of your views. And again, we continue to be open to receive your views at any stages during this important process, and I will stop here.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Alia, for your presence, but also for your passion and the commitment that you bring to engaging with and listening to the views of stakeholders. Thank you also for describing the multitude of challenges and problems, both new and emerging, that we're seeking to address in terms of both the process and the substance around the political declaration. Time is of the essence, and so let me once again thank Ambassador Al-Thani, and now proceed to invite my colleague, Nayara Costa, as I open the floor for comments and interventions from participants. Nayara, over to you to conduct the remaining dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Neil, for joining us today, for your guidance and support. And also I'm joining you in thanking the ambassadors for joining us, and their teams for all the support in setting up this call that DESA and the UN SDG Action Campaign are currently organizing. I'm really happy to facilitate the interactive part of our discussions today. To kickstart our discussions, we will now share a link to a Slido in the chat box, and we invite all the participants. I know we have more than 400 people connected on the call. There are 3 ways for you to participate in the Slido. One is using the QR code that is showing on your screen. The other one is using the link that colleagues will be posting on the chat box. And also the other one, I'll be just reading the link. It's www.slido.com, and you can use the participation code 7164646. So I will repeat the code 7164646. So if you could help us with this question, if you could summarize your expectations for the SDG Summit Political Declaration in one word, what would it be? We'll soon come back to see the outcomes of this discussion or this interaction. We will now be hearing from stakeholders, representatives from different sectors, networks, organizations, and major groups. As mentioned by Neil in the beginning of the call, we received more than 150 requests for interventions during this webinar, and unfortunately, we won't be able to accommodate all of them. However, we have analyzed the inputs provided by those applying for speaking slots and wanted to share some key messages just to start the reflections. Also, if you want to submit some additional comments to the Zero Draft Political Declaration, you can use a Google form that my colleagues will be posting online. We really invite you to be very concise and specific on your comments. During this interactive segment, I also invite you to use the reactions button on the right button of your screen. I've seen some of you already using that. So if some of the messages being shared resonate with you, please use the reaction button to show that. The first, if we can move to the next one, please. So I just want to call your attention to some of the key words that were mentioned when stakeholders commented on the Zero Draft. You can see that action on gender equality, women's and girls, and engaging youth and children have received particular importance from those that, registered their interest to intervene today. And some other priorities to be featured in the Zero Draft Political Declaration included partnerships, education, poverty eradication, water and oceans, and health. The next slide, when you look through the lenses of the SDGs, we can see that some SDGs, they were featured in the inputs received so far, and those are SDG 3, on ensuring healthy lives and promoting well-being at all ages, but also SDG 17 on partnerships and SDG 16 on peace, justice, and institutions. And also we can see that SDG 5 on gender equality was also a main focus of attention from stakeholders in their contributions to the Zero draft. We have also taken a look at the key paragraphs that stakeholders commented on, and you can see that paragraph 36 has received the biggest amount of comments, also because it's more the operative paragraph where there's a list of action that is being proposed. So there are strong calls to focusing on questions of equality and inclusion, especially along the lines of gender, children, youth, and ability. There were appeals to strengthen the reference to individual SDGs, which can be summarized in a call towards ensuring that all the SDGs are reflected in a balanced manner. And also the inputs called emphasize the importance of partnerships, statistical capacities and data, technology, and funding. So those are just some key highlights from that we received. If I can invite my colleagues to share the outcomes of the Slido, I think this will be our, let me see if I can. Okay, so we can see the key words mentioned by participants. So we can see action, actionable, ambitious. Culture is also featuring very prominently. We will be keeping this as part of the summaries, and we'll also be reflecting this in the webpage of the event, and we'll be sharing with ambassadors as well with your teams. So colleagues, let's move to now it's time to hear from you. To kickstart the conversations, I want to invite Ms. Fontaine Papagiotti. She is representing the major groups and other stakeholders coordination mechanism for some remarks. Ms. Papagiotti, you will have 4 minutes, and then she will be followed by shorter interventions, and we'll be moving to that next. Ms. Fontaine, can you join us? Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Excellencies and distinguished guests, colleagues, on behalf of the major groups and other stakeholders, I would like to thank the co-facilitators for the open, inclusive drafting process of the political declaration for the 2023 SDG Summit. We welcome the draft's analysis of the multi-layered crises we are facing and the limited progress toward the SDGs. However, we note with concern that this analysis is not matched with actionable, time-bound, and measurable normative and financial commitments to meet the urgency of the moment. The current business as usual approach is in fact detrimental to the vision of the 2030 Agenda for environmental integrity, human security, prosperity, and dignity for all. Bold and urgent action is required to combat inequalities, address multiple intersecting forms of discrimination, leave no one behind, and reach those furthest behind first. We therefore call on the co-facilitators, member states, and UN entities to reaffirm that the 2030 Agenda is guided by full respect for international law, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, international human rights treaties, and other instruments, including the Declaration on the Right to Development, ensuring a strong intersectional lens that accurately reflects the needs, rights, and multiple forms of discrimination of all the constituencies recognized in the 2030 Agenda, centering women and girls in all their diversity, people of diverse sexual orientation and gender identities, older persons, persons with disabilities, youth, and children. Reverse the global erosion of the rights of women, girls, and LGBTI people in all their diversity by accelerating efforts to remove structural barriers such as discriminatory laws and harmful stereotypes and norms, and address gender-based violence, the unequal distribution of unpaid care and domestic work, their underrepresentation in leadership and decision-making positions, and the curtailment of sexual and reproductive health and rights. Develop and implement an action plan to move beyond GDP that accurately reflects the value of women's unpaid work, pursue economic policies that further human rights, labor and environmental standards, and adopt fiscal and universal social protection policies to promote inclusive growth. scale up efforts to finance sustainable development, including through canceling debt, comprehensively addressing illicit financial flows, terminating investor-state dispute settlement mechanisms, fulfilling and exceeding the 0.7% of GNI target for official development assistance, and assessing systemic risks posed by unregulated or inadequately regulated financial sector instruments and actors. Transition from unsustainable resource extraction to green economies with sustainable production and consumption, care and education at their core. Protect ecosystems through cultural and context-based approaches that meaningfully engage communities, and implement the climate change gender action plan and all other existing global and national climate commitments, prioritizing investments to address the vulnerability of persons who are most at risk. Commit to a new social contract for education, promoting lifelong learning, including comprehensive sexuality education for all, and addressing systemic inequalities, and invest in gender disaggregated intersectional data to inform policymaking at all levels and stages, and enable meaningful accountability for the HLPF and the SDG Summit outcomes. Excellencies, we are particularly concerned that this declaration does not include any reference to the major groups and other stakeholders who are official stakeholders to the UN Sustainable Development processes. In line with the 2011 Busan Declaration, which formally recognized civil society as an essential partner for development cooperation, we urge the co-facilitators to continue and open up sustained, meaningful engagement modalities beyond short interventions such as this one that cannot even scratch the surface of the issues facing us today, and the written feedback that we provide to documents that often is not reflected in the outcome and final documents, to ensure that both the process and the outcomes strongly reflect and respond to the voices and realities of civil society partners at the local, national, and regional levels. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Foteini, for joining us. And also thank you to the major groups and other stakeholders coordination mechanism for the collaboration. Thank you. We will now be inviting a number of representatives from stakeholders, major groups, and other constituencies to deliver the short remarks. We have a long list of participants. We are very keen on inviting everyone. So every speaker will have 2 minutes. You see, I'll be using a timer, and I'll be, letting you know if you advance on your time. Again, for participants, join by reacting to the inputs that we are receiving. So I'll be referring to the 3 first speakers. So first, we'll be inviting Ms. Alexandra Santaki, the UN Special Rapporteur in the field of cultural rights. She will be followed by Ms. Paola Simonetti from the Workers and Trade Unions Major Group, and Mr. Roberto Bisio from Social Watch. So, Ms. Santaki, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much for inviting me to take the floor. I am Alexandra Santaki, the UN Special Rapporteur in the field of cultural rights. I have focused a substantial part of my mandate on development and cultural rights. I regret the lack of recognition of the importance of cultural diversity and cultural rights in development processes and the SDGs, and in the Zero Draft as we have it at the moment. Let's seize the opportunity provided by the SDG Summit to address this gap and affirm that cultural development should be an integral part of sustainable development and the 2030 Agenda. The Zero Draft should recall that, quote, people and peoples must be the primary beneficiaries of sustainable development processes, and affirm that sustainable development processes should be culturally sensitive and appropriate, contextualized to specific cultural environments, and seek to fully align themselves with the aspirations, customs, traditions, systems, and worldviews of the individuals and groups most likely to be affected. The Zero Draft should also recognize that cultural diversity is crucial for the human ecosystem and for the sustainability and resilience of the wider ecosystems, together with biodiversity, to which it is interlinked, and that it opens avenues towards implementation that recognizes the value of both traditional and modern knowledge and encourages their synergy. Cultural rights are at the core of sustainable development processes. Finally, the Zero Draft should support the recognition of culture as the fourth pillar of sustainable development and recognize the need for a stronger place for culture throughout the implementation of the 2030 Agenda, the adoption of a standalone goal on culture in the post-2030 development agenda, and the adoption of a global agenda for culture. All these points could be included in paragraph 36 in the form of additional subparagraphs. I would also like to stress that a mention to the UNESCO World Conference on Cultural Policies and Sustainable Development, Mondiacult 2022, should be added in paragraph 29. Last year, I presented my report to the UN General Assembly on these issues, and you can find my report on the website. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Santaki, for joining us today for your inputs. We are following with Ms. Paola Simonetti from Workers and Trade Unions Major Group, followed by Mr. Roberto Bisciu from Social Watch, and Ms. Lucy Islak from the Local Authorities Major Group. Ms. Simonetti, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thanks for the co-facilitator for organizing this consultation. So I'm speaking on behalf of Workers and Trade Union Major Groups, and specifically on behalf of the International Trade Union Confederation, the ITUC. So we would like to see reflected in the political declaration a strong call for a new social contract rooted in a gender transformative agenda for recovery and resilience. The new social contract, these ambitions from the workers and the world of work side consist in demands on the creation of 575 million new and decent jobs by 2030, and the formalization of at least 1 billion informal workers with rights, fair wages, universal social protection, and of course with equality and inclusion. So on these premises, we would like, and I will highlight majorly 3 points among the amendments that we have proposed to the current Zero Draft. The first one concerning to paragraph 11, really to put full and productive employment, decent work for all, in line with international labor standards. This is something that unfortunately is not reflected in the slides that have been presented so far, but we believe that decent job creation is a key way towards resilience and the key way towards the attainment of the SDGs through SDG 8. And in that sense, we would like the declaration to reflect a major policy piece from the UN, which is the Global Accelerator of Jobs, Social Protection and Just Transition as a key policy and the key ambition to be implemented everywhere. Secondly, social dialogue. We, and this is, I'm referring in particular to paragraph 14. We strongly suggest to include labor market institutions and social dialogue because these are fundamental to social cohesion. So, and I would like to recall that the past HLPF ministerial declaration refers to social dialogue as a way forward and as an implementation tool of the SDGs, and so does the recent resolution of the UN Commission for Social Development. So we really advocate its inclusion in the declaration. And finally, as it was recalled before, gender equality, paragraph 36. When we said the targeted accelerator action to remove social and economic barriers to achieving gender equality, we cannot omit the economic integration and participation of women into the labor market, and therefore addressing the employment and gender pay gap. This will be two major achievements and two major objectives that cannot be omitted by the political declaration. And
thank you so much, Paula.
Yes, I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. So next will be Mr. Roberto Bisciu from Social Watch, followed by Miss Lucy Slack, Local Authorities Major Group, and Miss and Hannah Kohn from LGBTY Stakeholder Group. Roberto, please, you have the floor.
Obrigado, Mayara. As you know, The summit on the least developed countries was held last March in Doha. And the least developed countries are obviously those countries left behind in the international system, and SDGs will not be achieved if they are not achieving them. During that summit, there was a civil society forum, and it made several points in its statement to the official closing session. For the sake of time, I can only quote one. I am posting in the chat a link to all of the civil society declaration at that summit. But in particular, civil society said, and I quote, "Unpaid care work, mostly done by women and girls, must be reduced and redistributed by governments, as well as recognized in constitutions and laws," and I would say in the political declaration. "Effective infrastructure for care services can be built through networks that link and coordinate across the different services, as well as connecting care services with the rest of the economy." That has been called by us building an economy that actually cares. And in Latin America, a recent study by the UN Economic Commission on Latin America and the Caribbean has shown that investing in care has a beneficial multiplier effect that is greater than that of investing in traditional physical infrastructure. And I will post the link to that document also. And of course, the jobs created by that are mainly jobs for women. But the Zero Draft has only one mention to care, including healthcare, rightly, among other desirable goals. It ignores the whole earth-shaking experience of COVID, the pandemic that placed care as central to the existence of our civilization, and women as its main providers, frequently without pay and always underpaid. The Regional Conference on Women in Latin America and the Caribbean at ministerial level committed the regional governments to ensure the right to care through comprehensive care policies and systems from a gender, intersection, intercultural, and human rights perspective. We all need to be cared. This is not for women. This is for all of us that as children or as elderly people, when we are sick or if we suffer from disabilities, we need that care. Now, vaccines and special drawing rights were hoarded by a few countries without reaching those left behind. Untaxed billionaires around the world got richer during the pandemic, but women were providing a massive subsidy to the economy that was not registered in any national account. This is why one of the reasons why we need indicators beyond GDP, as the Zero Draft correctly proposes. And we also need to assess who really contributed to the SDGs in this first term to properly assess which partnerships to promote in the coming second half. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Roberto, for joining us and for your messages. So next is Lucy Slack, Local Authorities Major Group, followed by Hannah Kohn, LGBTI Stakeholders Group, and Jordi Pascual, Campaign Culture to 2030 Go. So Lucy, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair, Your Excellencies, colleagues. It's a real pleasure to be here on behalf of the Local Authorities Major Group. And I think from our point of view, the draft declaration certainly references the importance of integration of the SDGs into national policy frameworks and advancing integrated planning at local and subnational level. It even references localization, but it stops there and it doesn't make reference to the importance of local and regional governments as decision makers, or indeed to the key role that multi-level governance is going to play in achieving the SDGs and overcoming crises. And I think in its current format, the declaration doesn't really mention the importance of monitoring and reporting beyond the national level. It doesn't really recognize what's happening at the local and regional government level, with no reference to voluntary local reviews or indeed subnational reviews. And where we welcome the reference to localization, I think it is important to really reinforce these messages and perhaps even look back to the declaration that was released, the ministerial declaration in 2021, which referenced committing to involving and empowering local authorities to ensure local ownership of the SDGs, in particular by citizens, community and local organization, and to shape and translate national development priorities into local realities. It also mentioned voluntary and local reviews. I think specifically, we definitely like to see local and regional governments specified when we're referencing the kind of enhanced partnerships towards achieving the SDGs, and also explicit reference to local public service provision when we're referring to inclusive and equitable education, health, food security, etc. Really recognizing the priority towards acceleration and the role that local and regional governments play in that. You've talked about science and referencing science in policy making. We're going to hear about culture, and I think particularly the importance of multi-level, multi-stakeholder governance as a guiding principle for governmental action and the levers for SDG acceleration and in the acceleration segment. And then very specifically, in addition, recognizing the key role local and regional public service provision plays in protecting people and the planet, and its link to implementation of all of the SDGs and indeed strengthening them through new services and new ways of looking at finance. We're keen to look at local and regional governments' role in decision-making at all levels and in the management of complex emergencies, and indeed this developing of a new contract building on the voices and experience of local communities and the role that local and regional governments play in bringing that to the fore. We're keen to look at supporting and fostering the transformation of our consumption and production patterns, looking at models grounded on proximity and circularity that are really sustainable, inclusive, environmentally sound, and indeed create cultural and economic and social value for local communities that they serve. I mentioned the VLR and the VSR process and the issue of recognizing those in the document. And then finally, two key things from our point of view, definitely revitalizing the multilateral system. And of course, as many others have mentioned, we need to rethink the financial and revenue streams to actually make acceleration a reality. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Lucy, for your inputs. Colleagues, we still have a number of speakers. I'm sorry if I'll be pushing you more to keep to the time. Let me invite then Hannah Kohn from the LGBTI Stakeholder Group, followed by Jordi Pasqual, Campaign Culture to 2030 Go, and April Porteria from the Asia Pacific Regional CSO Engagement Mechanism, APRSEN. So Hannah, please, you have the floor.
Good morning. I'm speaking on behalf of the LGBTI Stakeholder Group. It is of the utmost importance that no one is left behind in the implementation of the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals, including people of diverse sexual orientations, gender identities and expressions, and sex characteristics. We applaud the commitment in the Zero Draft to leave no one behind by focusing on the most vulnerable. This matters to the millions whose lives and livelihoods are at stake. To this end, we support the implementation of the SDGs through a human rights-based approach. We call for the maintenance of the 2022 HLPF Political Declaration agreed language in paragraph 133 on the need to protect and fulfill human rights and achieve gender equality through inclusion and respect for diversity. We urge the addition of agreed language on gender disaggregated data from the SDG Indicator 17.18 to paragraph 36L, as it is more inclusive than what is in the Zero Draft. We also call for the usage of the agreed listing in Resolution A/Res/76/176, paragraph 7, which is more comprehensive than the listing we see in Zero Draft, paragraph 35. Additionally, we would like to see a commitment to tackle gender-based violence, which was amplified during COVID-19. This language matters. Accelerating the recovery from COVID-19 and the full implementation of the 2030 Agenda requires making increased efforts that no one is left behind. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex populations must know that they are fully involved in SDG implementation to guarantee that this happens. Thank you very much for your time today.
Oops. Thank you so much, Hannah, and also for keeping the time. And so we will move now to Jordi Pascual from Campaign Culture 2030 Go, followed by April Porteria from APRSEN, and then Tabitha Nbutia from the Children and Youth Major Group. So Jordi, please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of the global campaign Culture 2030 Go. The campaign unites global cultural networks with thousands of members in all countries of the world. Since its creation, the campaign has underlined the essential role of culture as the fourth pillar of sustainable development. The SDGs in 2015 did not recognize the power of culture. The good wording of the preamble was not unfolded in one specific goal and several clear targets, aiming at boosting the cultural capacities of people and connecting culture to the challenges we have as one humankind: peace, climate emergency, poverty, gender equality, human rights, freedoms. This absence means the SDGs lack coherence and consistency. A global agenda for development can only be achieved if it includes culture as a driver of development. Today, all stakeholders involved in the achievement and the localization of the SDGs recognize this absence is negative. This includes the UN Secretary General in his most recent progress report a few weeks ago. Today, culture needs to be leveraged to accelerate progress. The impacts of the multiple and interrelated crises have made this need urgent. If the leaders meeting at the SDG Summit in September 2023 are consistent in their desire to deliver on the SDGs, the declaration needs to include culture. We suggest this paragraph to be added in paragraph 36. We recognize that culture, intercultural dialogue, heritage in all forms, cultural diversity, creativity, transmission of knowledge, culture remains undervalued in the push for SDG progress. We will act to analyze the role of culture as a global public good, including greater consideration of the role of culture in supporting SDG achievement now, and the analysis of a potential standalone culture goal as soon as possible, and certainly post-2030. Leaders, you need to be bold, engage with culture. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Jordi, for your inputs. So we'll go with April Porteria from APRSEN, followed by Tabitha Nbutia from the Children and Youth Major Group, and then Gabriela Cuevas Barron from UHC 2030. So April, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, co-facilitators, excellencies, and colleagues. On behalf of the APRSEN, we welcome the co-facilitators' ambition for an action-oriented, bold, and transformative declaration that is based on solidarity and shared responsibility. However, we hope that the emphasis will not only sound ambitious, but also translate into the political will and leadership that can mobilize member states to prioritize critical considerations over consensus. We reiterate that a business-as-usual approach will only exacerbate the crisis, leaving billions behind, mostly in the global south. We would also like to highlight that action-oriented, comprehensive, and responsive policy action merits much more than pegging on humanity's resilience to withstand disasters, and also suggests a perspective shift in the declaration to focus on actualizing the multilateral system's ability to prevent such crises as well as ensure their effective redress. We emphasize that the universality of the 2030 agenda can only be reaffirmed when rights and especially responsibilities are universalized, ensuring that big corporations are held accountable for the history and continued retrogressive measures involving illicit financial flows, environmental degradation, extractivism, and the abuse of weak legal systems across the global south. We also recommend the need to democratize our multilateral processes by ensuring meaningful civil society inclusion, in particular to recognize the MGOS coordination mechanism, an official stakeholder in the 2030 agenda process in the declaration. We suggest stronger language on primacy of human dignity and women's human rights, and a stronger emphasis on policy coherence across the UN and its affiliate entities such as IMF, World Bank, and the WTO to to avoid going one step forward and two steps back in the decade of action and delivery. The means of implementation also need to be mobilized as a critical impetus to reverse the regressions across the 2030 agenda. And lastly, we demand a stronger emphasis on concrete policy actions to address the systemic barriers to realize development justice for all. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, April, for your inputs. So we are moving to Tabitha Mingbutia from Children and Youth Major Group, followed by Gabriela Cuevas Barron from UHC 2030, and then Mr. Gerald Klein from the International Disability Alliance. So Tabitha, please, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, co-facilitators, for the floor. I am Tabitha Mbuthia, a young lawyer from Kenya, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Major Group for Children and Youth. We appreciate the zero draft and the consultation process being held. To this end, we highlight the following. First, while we welcome the reference and the under-dedicated paragraph on children and youth, we believe that it needs to be strengthened to reflect the urgency of times that we are in. We'll be sending concrete written proposals for the text on youth. Secondly, we request that reference to the outcomes of the ECOSOC Youth Forum, which was included in the elements paper, be brought back to the draft. This year's forum was specially dedicated to the SDG Summit preparation. Thirdly, we are pleased to share that the Major Group for Children and Youth will be hosting grassroots consultations to bring youth perspectives to the SDG Summit. We also plan to host a youth SDG moment in New York just before the SDG Summit, and we welcome partnerships. Fourthly, we are currently finalizing 3 key documents, and these are the youth sectoral paper for the HLPF, the Voices of Youth reports to SDG Summit, and the second draft of the youth position paper for the SDG Summit, which will also capture our inputs for the declaration. We request the co-facilitators and member states to take into account the consulted inputs from young people. Finally, actions should follow one. We call upon member states to provide designated funding to the youth constituency for meaningful youth participation at SDG Summit. Investing in youth empowerment is critical for the successful implementation of the 2030 agenda. Nothing about us without us. Thank you so much for the floor.
Thank you so much, Tabitha, for your inputs and for joining us today, and to the Children and Youth Major Group. So next, Ms. Gabriela Cuevas Barron, followed by Ms. Gerald Klein, International Disability Alliance, and then Ms. Yuka Iwatsuki from the Global March Against Child Labor and Stop Child Labor Network. Gabriela, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Excellencies, partners, and friends. My name is Gabriela Cuevas, and I am co-chair of UHC 2030, a global movement to build stronger health systems for universal health coverage. We welcome the zero draft of the political declaration and its vision for a world where everyone, everywhere has access to the healthcare they need. At current rates, half of the world's population will lack access to essential healthcare by 2030. Half of the world's population. The COVID-19 pandemic made it clear that healthy societies are a precondition for sustainable development and the SDGs as a whole. UHC is essential to reach the poorest and most vulnerable. UHC is essential to reach women and girls. UHC is essential to combat inequalities within and between countries. And UHC is essential to tackle poverty. In short, UHC is essential to achieve other SDGs. To ensure that the political declaration on SDGs is well aligned with the 3 health-related political declarations that will be adopted in September 2023, we urge member states to first recognize that UHC provides an umbrella for all health issues and populations in all countries and is essential for poverty reduction and the 2030 agenda as a whole. Second, to strengthen integrated approaches to pandemics and UHC by building equitable, resilient health systems. Third, realize equitable access to quality healthcare without financial hardship through UHC. Fourth, leave no one behind by focusing on the poorest and most vulnerable, including women and girls, and by removing the barriers and tackling discrimination. And last, institutionalize formal mechanisms for inclusive governance and social participation to ensure policies best respond to the needs and communities and strengthen people's trust in governmental actions. UHC is essential to ensure a healthier, safer, and fairer world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gabriela, for your inputs. And so we are moving to Mr. Gerard Klein, International Disability Alliance, followed by Yuka Iwatsuki from Global March Against Child Labor, and then Ishan Shah from the Coalition for the UN We Need. So Mr. Klein, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. The stakeholder group of persons with disabilities for sustainable development calls for the meaningful inclusion of persons with disabilities in this draft. Our essential point is that non-inclusive systems inevitably produce inequity, and now is the time to transform. Accordingly, the declaration should explicitly address why people are left behind, how the development agenda can reach the furthest left behind first, and offer concrete solutions. This requires recognizing the root causes and providing solutions to the systemic, political, and economic marginalization and discrimination experienced by all of the major groups, including persons with disabilities. We call on the international community to use the declaration to create an accessible and inclusive world by making all funds and programs disability inclusive, providing support services to ensure community inclusion, and we would like to offer some suggestions on how this can be done in the text. First of all, systemic changes are needed in data and funding. We must have data to drive disability inclusive policymaking to accelerate the 2030 agenda. We need dedicated funding for inclusive development for persons with disabilities, including in climate change and climate action. And we need to align domestic and resource flows towards SDG implementation with equitable budget processes that facilitate the participation of organizations of persons with disabilities. This means that the theme should consider an intersectional approach, including women and girls with disabilities. We must have more of a focus on inclusive education and the disability gap in education. We must use innovation and technology as drivers of sustainable development, including access to affordable and accessible assistive technology for persons with disabilities. We must also have people-centered approaches to preventive DRR by creating sustainable mechanisms for meaningful participation, including organizations of persons with disabilities. So to recap, our essential message is that the declaration should address marginalization and discrimination and provide solutions. This declaration is the perfect chance to chart a path for a better future for persons with disabilities in all their diversity, realizing our shared commitment of an inclusive equality world for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Klein, for your inputs. So we are almost ending our list. We have Ms. Yuka Iwatsuki, followed by Mr. Ishan Shah from the Coalition for the UN We Need, and finally Ms. Cecile Karn from Mercy International Association. So Ms. Iwatsuki, please, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'm Yuka Iwatsuki, representing Global March Against Child Labor and Stop Child Labor Network Japan. Child labor is a cause and consequence of poverty, and it deprives children's rights and their future. SDG 8.7 aims for ending all forms of child labor by 2025. However, 160 million child laborers exist in 2020, half of them from sub-Saharan Africa. We believe the summit and outcome document should address the target in peril of being achieved, and the zero draft should include a paragraph on child labor, as there is a huge gap with a goal and reality, and the reference to the Durban Call to Action outcome document of the 5th Global Conference on the Elimination of Child Labor. 2030 agenda calls leaving no one behind. Thus, we should also focus on the most left behind areas, usually the rural areas in developing countries, and often children and women. As the rural areas are often affected most by climate change, COVID-19 pandemic, and the lack of accessible education and health services, it deserves more focus in addressing many goals of the SDGs. Integrated area-based approach guided by local needs and solutions built together through the dialogue with grassroots stakeholders, including children, lead to concrete change and sustainable implementation. Therefore, area-based approach with the engagement of local government should be incorporated as a strategy in achieving SDGs. There are many proven results, but to scale up and speed up, It requires more funding. The funding of ODA should also be allocated more to the local level so that the changes can happen more quickly and efficiently. We have no time to lose. Children cannot wait. Commitment should be delivered. Let us make this summit realize stronger political will and more actions in achieving the goals. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Ms. Iwatsuki, for your inputs. So we are moving with Mr. Ishan Shah from the Coalition for the UN We Need, followed and finally by Cecile Karn from Mercy International Association. So Ishan, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for the floor. Excellencies and distinguished colleagues, I am delivering a statement on behalf of the Coalition for the UN We Need. The outcomes of the successful Global Futures Forum in March have now been consolidated into the interim People's Pact for the Future, a comprehensive and substantive contribution to the Our Common Agenda intergovernmental processes and negotiations for a strengthened UN system under 7 thematic focuses. The draft political declaration provides a promising starting point for an ambitious and concrete outcome that must be implemented to catalyze progress over the next 7.5 years as we look towards 2030. In this regard, based on the People's Pact, we propose the following to strengthen the draft text. Firstly, gender equality must be integrated throughout the text. We propose for paragraph 12 to include stronger agreed language from the Commission on the Status of Women, including reference to the removal of all structural barriers, gender stereotypes, and negative social norms for women and girls in all their diversity. And we propose an additional paragraph is added to reaffirm commitments to the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. Secondly, in reference to paragraph 15, we propose the addition of language based on the General Assembly resolution for the establishment of the UN Youth Office to reaffirm the commitment to promoting the meaningful, inclusive, and effective engagement and participation of youth and youth-led and youth-focused organizations in our work and across the United Nations system. Thirdly, we endorse the suggestions provided by the NGO Major Group. Notably, we reiterate the importance of references to current and future generations, reinforcing human rights-based approaches, including implementing the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment as adopted by the UN General Assembly, and additional references to moving beyond GDP and the need to transform the global financial architecture to make it more inclusive, transparent, and equitable. We are very much looking forward to working in partnership with all stakeholders, especially member states, to ensure that this political declaration can realize its full potential. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ishan, for your inputs. Let me now invite our last stakeholder intervention for the day, Ms. Cecile Karn from Mercy International Association. Cecile, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Excellencies, dear colleagues. I'm Cecily Kern. I represent Mercy International Association, and I am the chair of the NGO Committee on Migration. Thank you for this opportunity to give input into the draft political declaration. Our priority is to ensure that we can give voice to the experiences, needs, and contributions of migrants and displaced persons to sustainable development as cross-cutting realities across the entire agenda. Migration is so deeply interconnected to poverty, climate change, decent work, gender equality, and so many of the SDGs. In paragraph 20 on multiple and intersecting crises, we want to emphasize the need for balance related to narratives of human mobility and to caution against labeling migration as a crisis. It's true that more people are on the move today than ever before, and while irregular migration, forced displacement, discrimination, and a lack of social inclusion are barriers to development for migrants, their families, and communities, it's important also to recall that most migration happens in a regular way and is a benefit to the development of individuals and their communities, and of course to their countries of origin, transit, and destination. When there's a failure of governments to provide adequate protections and regular pathways for migrants in vulnerable situations to move from areas where they can't enjoy sustainable development in their countries of origin, and where there's a lack of policies for social and economic inclusion of migrants, this is where we encounter significant barriers to the achievement of the 2030 Agenda, and we hope that this can be nuanced in the declaration. We're appreciative also of the inclusion of paragraph 25 on the positive role of and the contributions of migrants to sustainable development. We hope that it can be retained and expanded. A number of other UN processes that complement the 2030 Agenda have been listed in this political declaration, and we believe that this paragraph should acknowledge the achievements in international cooperation that have been accomplished since 2015, which contribute to the migration-related goals, especially the New York Declaration on Refugees and Migrants, and the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration, which borrows language specifically from SDG 10.7. And finally, I just take note that the words discrimination, racism, xenophobia, and intolerance are nowhere in this document and must be acknowledged as barriers for the achievement of the 2030 Agenda. We trust that this will be addressed in future revisions of the political declaration, and we join others in urging that this will be an ambitious and actionable document that will move us forward towards accelerated progress towards the achievement of the SDGs with real impacts for people on the move and for our global community. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Cecile, for joining us, and to the 16 stakeholders who delivered remarks today. I know it's a broad range of topics and issues, and we will be reflecting on them in a bit. Just a quite kind reminder to those who spoke, please make sure that you share your written inputs with my colleagues so we can properly register them. If you, and to the other participants, if you still have inputs you want to share, my colleagues will be posting again the link to the Google form, and please do so by the end of the day today, New York time, because we will be also preparing a summary of the discussions. We are almost at the end of the call, and I'll soon be inviting the co-facilitators for their reflections as well. But let me at this stage invite Ms. Marina Ponti from the UN SDG Action Campaign, so we could jointly review the visual scribe, and also thanking the artist, Marsha, for joining us today. Marina, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Nayar, and thank you, everyone. This was an extremely substantive and rich discussion that showed the complexity and the intersection of all the issues that we need to tackle together, united. So I just, while we look at this image with many priorities, we've seen gender equality, LGBTI being mentioned several times, of course, sustainability, climate change. We've seen the use and the promotion of culture as a very important, pillar for acceleration of progress. And we also heard about measuring, country and economies using, going beyond the GDP. And also we heard a very inspiring call to action in terms of the care economy, showing how we can measure the economy so the economy really cares about people. I think it was a very important point. Of course, a very loud call on youth, on youth empowerment, on opportunity for youth, on removing all obstacles for youth, to really empower them for their present and the future. Of course, localization, another important point mentioned on multi-level governance, on localization, and also on healthcare, and also on somehow in the recent intervention, migration, something that is often referred as a barrier or as an obstacle, but can also need to be integrated as a kind of a force towards the 2030 agenda. I will stop here also to give the opportunity to the co-facilitator to respond. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marina, and to the artist, Marsha, and the team for the support. Before we close, I want to go back to the co-facilitators. I see that Ambassador Mithin is connected. My understanding is that Ambassador Othani may have left, but if she is on the call, please, Ambassador, let us know so we can also invite you. Ambassador Mithin, please, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Naira. I hope you can all hear me okay. I think Ambassador Alia has had to step away for another meeting, so I'll try and respond. I won't do so comprehensively because there's so much here, so much energy, so many ideas, so many proposals. I think that's really, really important. Just to say, I've been on the call, but also my colleagues from my own mission, from the Qatari mission, and also from DESA. So we've been taking note of all the points made and all the comments on the webinar chat. So much energy, so much challenge, so much supportive criticism and critical thinking, and that's really, really important. What are we trying to do here? We're trying to not rewrite the SDGs. So we're not in a this isn't recreating what was done in 2015. For, you know, I mean, for good or ill, the SDGs are what was agreed in 2015. I think they're extraordinary in their simplicity and their ambition. You know, when you look at no poverty, strong institutions, sustainable cities, quality work, quality education for all. You know, I mean, we can see where it might be improved, but actually, as a set of 17 goals, they're extraordinary in their both simplicity, in terms of communicating to people, but also in their ambition. So we're not going to rewrite them. What we're doing is reviewing and then driving on, in a sense, correcting course correction, leading to acceleration when it comes to implementation of these. We really want a concise document. Now, in the UN system, and many of you who follow these issues will know, in the UN system, every member state looks for concise documents and then gives us 40 pages of suggested changes. And that's where we are now. And there are many elements here that we want to reflect on too. The zero draft is not a perfect document. The zero draft was not set in stone. It was a starting point. And we're really working through with the member states, through our consultations, formal and informal, through our engagement with major groups and stakeholders, through events such as this, and through written submissions, to try and, you know, really strengthen further the zero draft to make it the strongest possible political declaration for September. But we really don't want a 40-pager. We don't want a big UN-style ECOSOC document that covers everything, says everything, but lacks punch and urgency, and it can't communicate to the world outside the UN system. I mean, you know, I'm only in this job 8 months, and sometimes I struggle with UN acronyms and UN language and text, and it doesn't connect with people in the way that the SDGs, in their marvelous simplicity, really connect with people, and in a way that you're trying to do, Marina and Marisha, with your wonderful visuals there, just trying to capturing all of that in a succinct one-page document. So where do we see the need for improvement? And to be honest, what we're hearing today is what we're hearing from member states, what we're hearing through consultation, just where can we improve matters? And we can certainly improve matters. And we've heard today strongly in relation to Indigenous rights. We're hearing that strongly in our consultations with member states. So we're looking at that. Culture, absolutely. And I'm actually traveling to Paris next week to meet with OECD contacts, and obviously culture is a very important, and UNESCO, sorry. So OECD and UNESCO have submitted some thoughts and text in this space, in this cultural space, and I'll be meeting with them to discuss this very, very strong issue. ILO, Labour, really good to see Paula again. We are looking at the accelerator for jobs, looking how we can stitch that into the political declaration. Gender, women's rights, girls' education, gender-based violence, all very, very, very strong. And I think where we recognise, even when we hit the send button for the zero draft, we recognise actually that was a gap. And our own experts in Dublin said that's a gap. So we can do more there, and we can certainly make that stronger. Food security are issues. The role of parliaments, local authorities, localization. I met yesterday with the representative of the Interparliamentary Union here in New York, and she was making a Patty Thornsey, Canadian, but from Ireland too. But she was making the point that the parliaments are a really important part of the picture between the UN, between civil society, and then actually making things happen at the national level, the regional level, the local level. So that's a very, very, very important point. They're just some of my takeaways. There are others, those from the disability, conflict. I mean, we know, and we can see the nexus in action, you know, where you have, you know, lack of sustainability, lack of opportunity, where you have climate emergency, that breeds conflict, and conflict then breeds all those other issues. So we know it's in a loop, and we know it could be stronger on that. So look, lots of takeaways from this engagement. I know we could have been here probably all day, and I hope we can do it again before we before we conclude, I'd certainly be willing to take part in a similar exercise, perhaps in July, as we're taking the work forward, as we're heading towards the summit in September, just as a staging point. So I'll hand that over to you, Naira and DESA and Marina. But certainly from my perspective, my delegation perspective, we're really keen to engage at all levels and at every opportunity with the representatives of civil society and activists who really are bringing so much lived experience across the globe, in their countries, in your regions, in your local communities. So what we're trying to do is balance this energy and these suggestions and these proposals for really improving our text, but just making sure it's not a big unwieldy novel that no one will read. So we're trying to keep it at that high political level that will just drive on, that will just inspire people, but will also inspire our heads of state and government to go back to their capitals, really reconnect, really turbocharge implementation in their own countries, in their own systems, in their own civil services, to drive on implementation. That's really important. So just a huge thank you to all who organised this, who brought this about. This is an extraordinary platform, and here we see, I know we worry about technology, we worry about where AI is going, and yet we see the incredible tools that technology gives us. We know how that helped so many communities during COVID. It helped so many young children to stay connected to each other and to education. But we also know that many parts of the world and many societies and many regions didn't have access to technology. So that's another area that we want to see, that sense of actually that inequality when it comes to technology, as well as so many other areas. So look, we're really committed. My team have been on this webinar all morning, have been taking notes. We're working to do the very best we can. So I want to give a big shout out to my own team, John and James and Abdul Rahman and his team from the Qataris. They're in the trenches today. They're heading back in with their pens and paper to really craft again with DESA, with the UN system. We're working away. We hope to get the next draft out before the end of the week. We're heading back into consultations again with member states this Friday, the 9th. Then, so I think we will hear initial obs on Friday and then back in on the 21st and 22nd. So we're driving this process on. It's a tight time frame. This is really, really helpful to us. We expect you to mark our homework and to keep on doing so, and to keep on challenging and to keep on pushing us to make it the best it can possibly be. And yes, really, really happy to do this again in some shape or form as we head towards September. We're still working with the UN system around what this summit will look like, both in the days leading up to the summit on the Monday and Tuesday, and then the actual summit itself. And we know there are plans for a strong, almost a celebration of civil society and the SDGs in the UN in the days leading up to the summit. And we hope to see as many of you there as possible. We'll certainly be there engaging with many, many of you. So we're trying to, in a sense, recapture the energy, recapture the spirit of 2015 to drive us on at government level, member state level, but also collectively. So let's capture that and let's keep on talking, engaging over the next few weeks and months, and keep on critiquing our work, marking our homework as we go forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Ambassador Mithing, and also Ambassador Altani, for joining, for opening the space and allowing us also to bring some creativity to those discussions. So we really wish you both the best in the next steps, and we are at your disposal to support and facilitate additional conversations with stakeholders from all over the world. We are closing this webinar now, but I really need to thank again our partners from the UN SDG Action Campaign, Marina and your team, also Masha, the visual scribe, for her contributions. A big thank you to my colleagues in DESA. There are several of us working behind the scenes to make this a smooth event that allows for a good number of participants to interact. So huge thanks to you all, colleagues, and a big thank you to those who spoke today, who brought their contributions to the participants for this very lively event. It's really reassuring to see how the strong engagement of stakeholders facilitators and your commitment with the SDGs and also the SDG Summit process. We'll continue to collaborate with you. The meeting is now closed. I wish you all a very lovely day. Thank you so much for joining. Bye.
Thank you, Naira. That was great. Well done.
Thank you so much, Ambassador.
As I said, very happy to do it all over again. And great work, Marcia. It's a great visual.
My pleasure. Wonderful session.
Yeah, hard to capture all of that in one graphic, but you're giving it a good shot. It really is everything everywhere all at once.
Yes, it's a lot.
Yeah, no. We'll keep on going, and look, really great. Our colleagues now are heading in with your colleagues from DESA, and they're really trying to create something special, but concise.
Thank you.
Right, take care.
Thank you,
Bye now.
Marcia.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Nayara.
Thank you, Marina and colleagues. This has been great. I'll follow up with you next.
Okay. Thank you, Marcia. Great working with you.
My pleasure. I'll send you the image shortly.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll close the session now, colleagues.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.